We are one more time again under the umbrella of Bharat Sevashram Sangha, New Jersey. Our pranam to Jugacharya Swami Pranavanandaji Maharaj and our Guru Srimat Amaranandaji Maharaj and all the other monks of Bharat Sevashram Sangha. Last time we ended with verse 50 on chapter 18. This is all part of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18. So we'll start again from 50 again and then discuss one at a time. Oh Lord, take us from darkness to light, ignorance to knowledge. Give us the true knowledge and wisdom. Pranam to Jugacharya Swami Pranavanandaji Maharaj. Last time we talked about on the chapter 18, we did up to verse 50. So I'm going to start again with verse 50. Siddhing prapto jatha brahma tathapnoti nibodhame samasena ivo konteo nishtha jnanasya japara buddhya visuddhaya yukto dhrittan atmanang niyamacha shabdadin vishaya yukta rago desho buddhasya. O Arjun, the son of Mother Kunti, you hear from me briefly how a noble soul who purified him by his selfless action attains the Brahman, which is the highest state of all knowledge. A person with pure intellect who have restrained unsteadiness of his mind with firmness, who have abandoned the attachment and attraction of objects like sound, taste, etc., in other words, indriyas, and who is free from these feelings of liking and disliking. After all this discussion, a devotee will ask the question, what is your point, Bhagavan Sri Krishna? Let's get to the point. Now at the end, Bhagavan Sri Krishna coming to the point. He is mentioning, O Arjun, the son of Mother Kunti, hear from me briefly, how a noble soul who purified him, every word is very important. Siddhing prapto jatha brahmo tathapnoti nibodhame samasena iva konteo nishtha jnanasya japara. Purified him by his selfless action. Selfless action. Chapter after chapter, Bhagavan Sri Krishna talked about what without asking for the results. Selfless action, ragodesha, without ragodesha, without attachment, attain the Brahman, which is the highest state of all knowledge. Our final goal is trying to see that Param Brahma, colorless, shapeless, timeless, beyond time and space, that Brahman. We are trying to look for that. That's the Shivaham. I am that. I am part of that. Trying to find that Brahman. That is our goal in life. Then what is the answer? Sri Krishna telling, a person with pure intellect who have restrained unsteadiness, every word is important, who have restrained unsteadiness of his mind with firmness. We talked a lot about dhriti. He's talking about dhriti again. In 2 lines, Bhagavan Sri Krishna giving all the adjectives that you need to realize the unpolluted Brahman, who have abandoned the attachment, no raga desha, and attraction of objects like all the indriyas, sound, taste, and who is free from these feelings of liking and disliking. Raga desha buddhasya. What are his? We talked about in different chapter, even 17th chapter. In detail, we talked about these Sattva, Raja, Tama qualities. What is their food habit? What is their way of thinking? How they should work? All that we talked in detail, verse after verse. In one or 2 sentences how Sri Krishna summarizing all that again. Verse 52. Vivikto shevi lagdhanshi jato bakkayo manaso dhyano jogo paro nityang vairagyo samupasritang ahankarang balang darpang kamang krodhang parigraham vimuccho nirmamam shanto brahma bhuaya kalpate. Vivikto shevi lagdhanshi. What is that? A person who accepted solitude. He doesn't like big crowd because he had to concentrate, be quiet and think all that thinking who I am, where I came from, where I'm going to go. A person who accepted solitude, who has control over his food and diet. We talked in detail in chapter 17. What is the food and diet for a Shaktic person? His food and diet, who is restricted with his speech, physical activities and mind, who practices meditation on a regular basis, and someone who is indifferent to this world. You see, nothing touching. It is that we talked about that, how a maid, a nurse a baby. It is not his baby, but still she nursed that baby day after day as her own, though the baby doesn't belong to her. So that's his attitude. And someone who is indifferent to this world, he is doing everything, but he doesn't have any attachment. Ahankarang balang darpang kamang krodhang parigraham vimuccho nirmam shanto brahma bhuaya kalpate. So condensed this verse. Look at this. Ahankarang balang darpang, a person who is free from false pride. Ahankarang balang darpang, false pride, power, ego, unrestricted desire and anger, who is not interested in possession of wealth, who is completely detached and who is in peace within himself, is a perfect soul for God realization. Bhagavan Sri Krishna, who can get the Brahman? Ahankarang balang darpang kamang krodhang parigraham. He already gave up all that. Vimuccho nirmamo shanto brahma bhuaya kalpate. A person who is free from false pride, power, ego, unrestricted desire and anger, who is not interested in possession of wealth, who is completely detached and who is in peace, is a perfect soul for God realization. I'm jumping to verse 61. Next few verses, Sri Krishna is all talking the same thing in general. Who are the one can attain the Brahman? Verse 61 is very notable verse because this is where we clearly see why Bhagavad Gita is a universal spiritual book. It is the universal knowledge. It is not for any group of people, for people from any country, people for any particular sex, creed, or caste. It is for everybody. And that's so clearly mentioned in verse 61. Ishara sarva bhutanam riduddesharjuna tishtoti brahmayano sarva bhutani jantarurani mayaya. Arjun, the Lord resides at the heart of all. All. This all is except nobody. It's all, everybody in this universe. Arjun, the Lord resides at the heart of all. When we say that this Sanatana Dharma is for everybody, we cannot include anybody, we cannot exclude anybody, because Ishwar in everybody's heart. And that's what is very clearly on verse 61, Bhagavad Gita telling. And this is the base of whether Ramakrishna or Swami Pranavanandaji, in everybody accepted this fact that God is in every heart. Ishsharo sarvabhutanang riduddesharjuna tishtati brahmayano sarvabhutani jancharurani maya. Arjun, the Lord decided the heart of all. By his deceptive power, the Lord make everybody travel through many births as if they are mounted on a machine. It's just like an instrument. We are just an instrument, and God is doing everything, and he resides in every human being. Now come the bombshell. Look at this. After all this 17th chapter, Bhagavan Sri Krishna telling, he got tired of explaining the whole world now. Now he is saying, Sarvadharman Parityajya, I'm reading verse 66. Sarvadharman Parityajya mamekam sharanam braja aham tang sarvapapebho mokkhaishami ma shucho. Very famous verse. Lot of people quoted it time to time. Finally, come down to the point, just worship me. Fix your mind at me, Sarvadharman Parityajya. Give up all the rituals, all the activity, all the knowledge. Mamekam sharanam bhaja. Just worship me. Just worship Bhagavan Sri Krishna. If you think about it, this is again Bhakti Yoga. In Bhakti Yoga, devotion, chapter 12, Bhagavan Sri Krishna in detail talk. Bhakti is, devotion is much easier and straight path to God compared to knowledge or karma. Compared to karma yoga and jnana yoga, Bhakti yoga is the easiest one and a straight path to God. In this verse, Bhagavan Sri Krishna very clearly telling, Sarvadharman Parityajya, give up all your action, all your activity, all your dharma, adharma. Sarvadharman Parityajya, mamekam sharanam bhaja. Just worship me. Aham tang sarvapapebho mokkhaishami ma shucho. Fix your mind at me. My devotee, worship me and bow down to me. I promise you will reach me. I say this because you are very dear to me. He is telling Arjuna. This is a very famous verse. End of the day, the winning yoga is bhakti. We saw that in chapter 12, Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Arjuna asked, what is better, jnana yoga or bhakti yoga? Bhagavan Sri Krishna clearly said that jnana yoga is very hard and it takes a lot of time and it's a long path. Bhakti yoga is much easier, straightforward path to Bhagavan Sri Krishna or the God or the Brahman. It reminds me a very nice story. One time Swami Vivekananda, right after Thakur Sri Ramakrishna's death, went to Benares when he was traveling all over India. He went to Benares. And in Benares, on the bank of Ganges, different pundits, different experts, they recite Bhagavad Gita and Upanishad day after day. So Swami Vivekananda was standing, and one Swamiji was discussing Bhagavad Gita in real deep detail with all the philosophical aspect of it, and mostly in Sanskrit. And Vivekananda noticed an elderly lady on the corner just sitting and tears coming off her eyes. So Vivekananda thought, with this high philosophy, the way this Swamiji is explaining, is this lady really realize everything? So he went to this lady, elderly lady, and said, Mom, do you understand all this thing, what he's explaining? This is a pretty high philosophy. Do you follow all this? She says, no, I don't follow any of this. So, but I see you've got tears coming out of your eyes. She says, look, when he's doing all this discussion, all I see, little Sri Krishna is dancing on the steps. You see, that is bhakti. That is devotion. She didn't need any knowledge. She didn't need any high thought, no high philosophy. She was seeing Bhagavan Sri Krishna is dancing on the steps of Ganges, at the bank of Ganges. And that was enough to bring tears to her eyes. And at that point, Vivekananda realized the power of devotion, power of bhakti yoga. It's a very short story, but it tells a lot about how beyond all the knowledge, beyond all the philosophy, devotion wins. And exactly that's what in verse 66, Bhagavan Sri Krishna is telling. Now I'll jump to verse 67. Verse 67 is another important one. Idam te naho tapaskayo naho bhaktayo kadachan no chaho susrabe bachang no chamang jo habba shoti. This sacred knowledge which I have taught you for your benefit, please do not tell it to someone who doesn't practice religious austerities, who has not faith in me, who is unwilling to hear it, and who hold malicious feeling towards me. Bhagavad Gita clearly telling, do not fight with the unbelievers. Don't pass this knowledge and waste your time. People who are not religious, who does not have respect for the spiritual thoughts and aspiration. Idam naho tapaskayo naho bhaktayo kadachan no chaho susrabe bachang no chamang joha bhashoti. This sacred knowledge which I have taught you, this is a very high thought, very high philosophy, very secret knowledge. This sacred knowledge which I have taught you for your benefit, please do not tell it to someone who doesn't practice religious austerities, who has not faith in me, who is unwilling to hear it, and who hold malicious feelings towards me. So we shouldn't discuss it to the unbelievers. People who don't have the respect for it, don't waste time for it. Now we're coming to the end. Verse 72. Kochidete tachang partho toikagreno chetosha kochido gyano sammoho pranashtaste dhananjayo. Bhagavan Sri Krishna asking Arjuna, O Partho, have you heard my sincere with the focus? Have you listened to me with your sincerity and focused mind? O Dhananjaya, whether your illusion, which was originated from wrong understanding, is removed or dispelled or not. Last time, verse 72, Bhagavan Sri Krishna asking, O Dhananjaya, is your illusion is over? Is your ignorance you are free of your ignorance? O Partha, have you heard me sincerely and with a focused mind? O Dhananjaya, whether your illusion, which was originated from wrong understanding, dispelled or not. Last time, a teacher asking his student, did you understand? Did you get the point? Arjuna said, Nashta moho sitirlabdha tat prasadat maya achyuta smito hosmi gato saddeho korishe vachanam tava. Nashto moho sitirlabdha tat prasadat maya achyuta smito hosmi gato sandeho korishe vachanam tava. Arjuna said, O Lord Achyuta, by your divine blessing, my illusions are being removed and I recovered from my memory. I am now steady and become free from all doubts and dualities. Lord, I will do as you wish. This is the sign of a devotee. Arjuna is not saying, I will do now my action. He is saying, I will do as you please, because I am an instrument to the Lord. I am doing his work. Nashta moho sitir labdha tat prasadatmayang chuta smito hosmi gato sandeho. I don't have any more doubt. Korishe vachanang tava. I'll just listen to you. I will just do your work. Finally, Arjuna, coming back to the point that yes, I will do now your work. '73. Now let's see 70. Last two verses. If we go back to the original story, who is telling? Sanjaya telling. Dhritarashtra wanted to see what's going on in the Kurukshetra. It's a battlefield, and there Dhritarashtra is trying to learn what is going on. And so Sanjaya is talking to Dhritarashtra, telling all the war stories. So 77. Tat Shangsmrito Rupatam. Finally, Sanjay is talking. Tat Shangsmrito Rupatmat. I'm reading verse 77. Tat Shangsmrito Rupatat Bhutang Hare Vishaya he Mahan Rajan Rishami cha Punah Punah. Verse 77. O King, by remembering again and again this strange and extremely brilliant appearance of Lord Sri Hari, I am dreadfully astonished and I feel excited in my mind over and over again. Tatcha Shansmrita over and over again. Rupam Adbhutang Hare Vishaya Mahan Rajan Rishami cha Punah Punah. He is perplexed. He is completely moved looking at Sri Krishna. Jatra Yogeshwaro Krishna, Jatra Partha Dhanurdharo, Tatra Vijaya Dhutir Bhavo, Nitir Mam. Final word. Where there is Lord Sri Krishna, that is Dhritarashtra telling. Where there is Lord Sri Krishna, the master of yoga, and where there is archer like Arjuna, there is wealth, victory, sure success, and is sound policy. This is my opinion. Sanjay, last time, the last verse is telling, Jatro Yogeshwara, God, Lord of all the yogas. Krishna Jatro Partha Dhanurdharo. Arjuna is the archer, Arjuna is the warrior. Tatro Sri Vijayo Bhuti Dhruva. For sure, victory is there. Niti Marmoti Bama. I understand it. I'm telling you exactly. Iti Sri Mahabharate Shato Sahasra Sanghitayo Boyashikang Vishwa Parvani Srimad Bhagavad Gita Shuko Nishatshu Brahma Vidyaya Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjuna Sangbade Mokkha Yoga Namo Ashtadashaddhayo Iti Bhagavad Gita Samapta. Om Tat Sat, Om Tat Sat, Om Tat Sat. This is the end of Bhagavad Gita. It is an audacity trying to study this in a short time. This scripture is so detailed in analysis, is so to the point, so condensed. In every 2 verses, you can spend hours talking about it. But with our short time, finally, we came to an end. And I'm going to tell one more time. Iti Sri Mahabharate Shato Shastram Sanghitayo Vaishayikang Vishwaparvani Srimad Bhagavad Gita Supanitshu Brahma Vidyaya Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjun Sangbade Mukha Yoga Namo Ashtadashadhayo Iti Bhagavad Gita Samapta Om Tat Sat Om Tat Sat Om Tat Sat. Now let's go back where we started from. See if we can summarize what we learned on the whole book of Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter. We started the book, chapter 1, Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Arjuna was lost. He didn't want to fight. His archer was falling down. His arms are falling down. His legs were trembling. He is completely confused. He's looking at all his relatives and he cannot believe that he's going to kill all of them and start a fight. And Bhagavan Sri Krishna, step by step, trying to explain why he need to do his action. You see, the whole Bhagavad Gita, he could have finished in 1 chapter or few verses. Just this is my rule, follow it. He didn't do that. Arjuna keep on asking questions, and one after other, he keep on explaining the sociology, the human psychology, the society, good, bad, and evil, and how a Shattik person can be Shattik, what is his symptoms, what he need to follow, his lifestyle, all that Bhagavan Sri Krishna explained one at a time. So first chapter, Arjuna Vishada Yoga. What is second chapter? Shankha Yoga. In Shankha Yoga, Bhagavan Sri Krishna jumped to a different complete philosophy. Shankha is one of the basic 7 philosophies that in India are accepted. And in Shankha philosophy, he talks about the immortality of soul. Shankha is another brief and condensed summary of the whole Sanatana Dharma. It answered the question, where is Atma coming from and where it is going to go, and how we are part of the Supreme Brahman. And Bhagavan Sri Krishna, a second chapter, first thing he explained to Arjuna, this immortality of soul. So whom you are killing, I already killed them. It's already done. Everything is done. You are just an instrument. Kill your ego. Don't think you are doing anything. It's all done. Still you have to do. You are just an actor doing your work. Second chapter. Then one after other, Bhagavan Sri Krishna analyzed all 4 yogas. What are those? Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Raja Yoga. These are the 4 yoga that in Indian philosophy, every aspect, every part of our life are involved with. Bhagavan Sri Krishna explained every one of them in detail. Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga. Bhagavan Sri Krishna explained, Arjuna asked, which is better? Is it Jnana Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, devotional? And Bhagavan Sri Krishna clearly said that devotion is the easiest path. Jnana Yoga is very good, but it's a long way. Keep on arguing, keep on understanding, but it's a long way. So he was very clear that devotional path is the easiest path. In India, all four paths people practice, and there is a lot of infighting and lot of difference in opinion. Bhagavad Gita answer all that, what we call the Sarvadharma Samannaya, the unification of all the philosophies. That's Bhagavad Gita. It doesn't leave anybody outside. Union of all four yagas. Then Bhagavan Sri Krishna, now look at the chapters. Vishada Jog, Shankha Jog, Karma Jog, Jnana Jog, Sannyasa Jog. Then come Dhyana Jog. Look at this. Dhyana Jog comes in chapter 6. We talk about meditation every other day. But what we are going to meditate on? We need an education before we start meditation. This is the part. One fine morning, we get up and say, well, I'm going to do some meditation. And then we close our eyes and all we say, donut. First, we need to see what we are going to meditate on. Meditation comes on chapter 6. You see, Bhagavad Gita is organized. I think about it, I get lost. How methodical, how scientific, how modern this literature is. Every chapter is organized in so nicely and so step by step that novice students will follow it. After Dhyana Yoga come, Jnana Vijnana Yoga, which is very deep, very high philosophy. Akshara Brahma Yoga, then come Raja Yoga. Then come Vibhuti Yoga. Chapter 11 is Vishwarup Darshan. After 10 chapters, Bhagavan Sri Krishna keep on talking and explain and explain. Finally, he got tired of it and he showed his true roop, Vishwarup Darshan. Vishwarup Darshan, Vishwarup, we see in chapter 11. Chapter 12, after you see Vishwarup, you cannot have any more knowledge, any more discussion, any more philosophy. It comes back to bhakti, devotion. By that time, if you are not under his feet, then you didn't listen to him. Chapter 11, Bhagavan gave this Vishwarup Darshan, his true form, his Vishal body, Vishal power, how encompassing the whole universe this Brahman is. And then come devotion, 12. Then come again, lot of discussion, Khetra Gojog, Gunotraya Vibhaga Jog, and then Purushottama Jog, Daivasura Jog, Saddhatraya Jog, finally Moksha Jog. So Vishwarup Darshan, we don't see his true nature or true body or true power until chapter 12. Chapter 11. Then you think about it, why he talks so much about Sattva, Raja, Tamo. We clearly heard that he didn't discard work. Karma Yoga is one of the focal points of Bhagavad Gita, because we need to work no matter what. It is a lie to say, I'm not going to do any work. So he never discouraged work. And if we have work, there will be fruit. So the reply is that we work, but never expect its results. How to deal with the fruits of our work, that's important. So then again, when we work, we live in a society. We're not going to Himalayas and study. We are worldly people. So we need to see people. So he talked in detail, Sattva, Raja, Tamo, 3 qualities. and the different qualities of people. It is not to criticize others, it is to improve myself. And at the same time, we get action reaction from people all around us. If we can understand their true nature, then we can deal with the situation much better. If we study acutely this Sattva, Raja, Tamo qualities and their nature and all of our food habit, our culture, then it's much easier to deal with them from my perspective. So it is very important. And he spent a lot of time, Bhagavad Gita spent a lot of time talking about Sattva, Raja, Tamo, goodness, passion, and ignorance. So we can know people and we can easily deal with them. Then he talked about how different group of people are formulated based on this quality, which is Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And he nullified once and for all that this has nothing to do with caste system. These are simple quality of people. And in same family, there will be somebody, could be one brother, could be a Sattvic, one could be Rajasic, one could be Tamasic. It is their inborn nature as well as their education and their aspiration and the application of their vivek, their intellect. So Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Bhagavan Sri Krishna talked about that. Finally, in chapter 18, he says, surrender to me. Give up. So what is Bhagavad Gita's core message? Universal message? Immortal soul. Shankojo. Avatarapa. We heard Jada Jada hi dharmasya glani bhavati bharat abhuttha namasya tadatmanang sejamma. This whole universe is running on a balance. We can see this today very clearly. Even in limited scientific knowledge, we know how unbalance can create havoc. And the whole solar system, the whole universe is running because of an order. And this order is very important. And if we create unbalance in this order, we create a lot of problem, lot of issues. And we can, in our limited understanding, we can see how this unbalance creating so many problems. Then we have the avatar. Whenever this unbalance happens, in the society, we get a leader. Who are these leaders? They are all part of the God. And Bhagavan Sri Krishna, Jada Jada hi dharma. So what is dharma? Dharma is the traditional, normal course of life. That is dharma. Dharma is balance in every aspect of the universe. That is dharma. Jada Jada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati. We get climate change. We get weather problem. We concrete mile after mile, and we get the repercussion for that. So Jada Jada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati abhuttha namasya tadatmanam sijamaham. God comes and create the balance. And we saw time to time, prophet comes. We saw Sri Krishna came. We saw Buddha. We saw Jesus Christ. We saw Muhammad. There are different times, and modern times, we saw Yugacharya Swami Pranavanandaji Maharaj or Thakur Sri Ramakrishna. This group of people come time to time, and a lot of question where and how this thing fit in, that one man become so knowledgeable, so versed in life, on every aspect of life, as we see in Swami Pranavanandaji Maharaj or Thakur Sri Ramakrishna in modern times. And that justify the avatar. In other words, the God comes to us time to time just to create the balance in the society. Now that is another major message of Bhagavad Gita. Finally, I will request that anytime you study it, to me, I feel it's a crime to study Bhagavad Gita with my limited Sanskrit knowledge. This scripture is so dense and so vast in word meaning, so detailed, that without learning very good Sanskrit, we cannot do justice to these verses. And with my limited knowledge, my apology to all the qualified people who studies with their Sanskrit knowledge, that I'm not really qualified to discuss this book. If you recall, when we do Saraswati Puja of Mother Saraswati, who is the goddess of learning, goddess of wisdom, and we give offering, flower offering to Mother Goddess Saraswati, and our Anjali, we say, one line we have is Vedo, Vedanto, Vedango, Vidyasthanebbo evacha. The line is Vedo, Vedango, Vedanto. What is Vedango? We know Ved, 4 Vedas. We know Vedanto, which is Upanishad. Then what is Vedango? Vedango is the grammar, Sanskrit grammar. And in Vedango had 6 parts: Shiksha, Chanda, Vyakarana, Jyotisha, Nirukta, Kalpo. These 6 parts include Vedango. So we are asking blessing from Mother Saraswati that give us knowledge about that. And Bhagavad Gita we cannot study unless we study through Vedango. Vedango is the grammar, Sanskrit grammar. And that has 6 parts: Shiksha, Chanda, Vyakarana, Jyotisha, Nirukta, and Kalpo. Finally, my request is that if you want to study this or advise somebody else to study, tell the young people to study it. You see, my issue is I thought a lot about this. We got 12 years in high school, 4 years in undergrad, 2 years doing a minimum 2 years doing a master, then another 4 to 6 years to do a PhD. And then we come out and you ask any of you that completed a PhD program, what is their knowledge? And they will say, we didn't start the knowledge yet. And Bhagavad Gita, we didn't spend 2 hours and trying to pass judgment on this literature. At least spend some time, read it, study it, discuss it. Then only we can make a comment. This knowledge is so vast, so detailed, so condensed that it is an audacity trying to pass comments on the scriptures without studying properly. If just to scratch a word of the knowledge, we need 16, 18 years, and then we come out and we are still knowledgeable. And we want to talk about the scriptures with 1 or 2 classes, 1 or 2 hours of study. No, it doesn't work. Please spend some time, or anybody want to pass comment, request them that sit down, read the book, discuss it, argue it. Nobody said accept it. Devotion is not accepting things blindly. In Upanishad, in Sanatana Dharma, Vivek is a big part of our analysis. We have analyzing power. Never accept anything. Judge it, analyze it, discuss it, then you accept it with your own experience. Without that, don't accept anything blindly just because somebody said so. Finally, it is not a beautiful book or a big book. It is not a judgment to the scriptures. Just if you look at a piano and then say the piano is beautiful, beautiful polish, beautiful wood, that's not the piano. You have to play it. Unless we play a piano, you don't know what is a piano, how good a quality it is. Bhagavad Gita is one of those books that we need to practice it. What we read, we need to practice it. Practice in our own life. And if that we do, if that help me, if that improve my life, that improve all the misery, all the dukkha, remove it. You see, shuk is what? We are all looking for happiness. And what is happiness? Happiness is the lack of dukkha, lack of sorrow. So to get rid of the sorrow, we need to see the true picture and remove the ignorance. That ignorance is the true picture. And if we want to do that, then we need to practice it. We cannot just read it. Bhagavan Sri Krishna said it in Bhakti Yoga devotional chapter that Jnana Yoga is fine, knowledge is fine, but end of the day, we have to accept it. But accept not a blind acceptance, acceptance with knowledge, with my own practice. Another simple analogy is we see a child playing with toy. And when the toy breaks, he cries. But we adults don't cry because we know this toy just belongs to a bunch of blocks. It's a bunch of Lego. And you can create another house again, though the child doesn't understand that. If we have the true knowledge, then we see that this is just all around us, is a bunch of Lego floating around. And we created small houses out of that. And they break and we cry. They get big and we laugh and we enjoy. So happiness and sorrow is just two sides of the same coin. None of these are permanent. Permanent is Brahman. In terms of human people, just think it that I know a lot of people has question about this Sattva, Raja, Tamo. We need to realize that these are not, nobody is 100% Sattik or Rajasic or Tamasic. There are a percentage of every one of them in our character, in our everyday life. It is just like a cup of coffee. Somewhere the coffee is strong, sugar is more, or the cream is more. Somewhere the milk is too much, enough milk, and very little coffee, very little sugar. So Sattva, Tamo is just think about a cup of coffee, and different coffee is different type. Based on the ingredient we prepare the coffee from. Somewhere it could be all black coffee and very little sugar and very little cream, or somewhere else it could be a lot of cream and very little coffee and very little sugar. So Sattva, Raja, Tamo is nothing more than a cup of coffee that's all around us, and we are part of that. And this is where Sanatana Dharma never discard any human soul, because in everybody, the final verse we saw that how God is in everybody. Sri Krishna very clearly, Bhagavad Gita telling, verse 66, that yes, God is in everybody. And that realization help us to understand and deal with people all around us. With that, I'd like to end my discussion. Now, if any of you have any question, I'll be glad to talk further. Om Tat Sat, Om Tat Sat, Om Tat Sat. If any of you have any question, I'll be glad to discuss.
And if you'd like to ask a question, you can either raise your hand or come off of mute. But if you don't have a question, stay on mute. And we'll take a look and see if anyone is raising their hands. Okay, it looks like Shuk.
Swamiji Amarnath has taught us Bhagavad Gita from the beginning. I have no knowledge of this subject before he introduced Bhagavad Gita. Now, from my study on Bhagavad Gita and reading and what I was taught is like not a story which you could explain to somebody. And if you miss something, then it is vital that you do not comprehend the full inner meaning of Bhagavad Gita. And is a subject you have to contemplate on. Many of the times when Swamiji started with the Bhagavad Gita, I couldn't understand. Before even he started, I have questions and questions and questions and questions. And then I started to contemplate. At one point, I told him I'm not going to go to the classes because I couldn't understand. And then he said, no, you come. So I keep on coming. And then he explained to me about a ring which you take and you put on the shelf, and after a while it covered with dust. And then you take that ring and little by little you start to take off the dust, and then you see the beauty of that ring. And then I started to grasp what he was really trying to tell me. And that was a sign of a great guru. And my follow-up guru is also great too, by getting us together to bring out the meaning of this Bhagavad Gita. I mean, this is a different approach which I never knew about. And my sincere thanks and pranam to you that you have come in a time of this crisis and explained this subject, especially on the concluding part. You know, like you are stuck in the ocean and you need a sailor to come and to take you out from that situation. And here you come and you bring us back to the shore. Thanks to you and my sincere and humble pranam that you have done a very excellent job in the conclusion of this Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you, Shuk. Thanks to you for participating. I am thankful that all of you spend your time. But you are so right. This is not a thing to get knowledgeable one fine morning. It takes years of discussion, studying. Every word is so deep and so condensed that unless we start, just to mention, I have 8 volumes of Bhagavad Gita from different authors, different editors. And I read every one of them. And I'm still reading. Because every place, every version, I get a different meaning. I get more insight. And that's the only way we can study this book. But you are so right. It is that ring that we have to clear the dust off. And once we keep on polishing, more things comes out of you. Thanks for your time. Any other question?
That was so true, because first time you read the Bhagavad Gita, you understand it. And then when you read the same Bhagavad Gita again, you have a more deeper and a different understanding.
Correct. Brian, you have a question?
Guruji, you know,
don't tell me Guruji, I am no Guru, I am one of you.
You know,
I'm just a student.
on one of your lessons, you mentioned about 10 children in the family, and same food, same clothing, same housing, same mother, same father, and each of them, one of them is a doctor, one of them is a teacher, one of them is a student, one of them is an alcoholic, one of them is a robber. How was that so? That was a very interesting topic. Now, it's like you're having 20 students in the class. And if you ask each of them the same question, you will have different answers.
True.
And that is what Bhagavad Gita is.
That is what Gita is. Yeah. You see, thousands of people come out with PhD, but very few of them become true scientists or true doctors or true architect. You know, in every field, just to study is not thousands of PhDs coming out every year, but everyone is not equal. Only exceptionally you get one Einstein, one Newton, or one XYZ. And that's what this, see, there is a big difference between knowledge and wisdom. When knowledge is digested by experience, that becomes wisdom. Knowledge is what we learn. Wisdom is what we get. At that point, knowledge is digested and tested by our own experience. That's when we become wiser. Anybody else? Brian, you had some question we talked about before.
Yeah, I just first want to say, just to echo, Shuk, what you shared was quite interesting, and I feel the same way. Asim, I'm very grateful to you. As Shuk mentioned, it is like being out on the sea and a bit lost, and a sailor, a more experienced sailor, comes along. Swami Amarnathanandaji, he started out this process with us well over a year ago. And I was thinking about, at that time, so many of us were really trying to make sense of the changes that were happening around us. And at that point, the pandemic was becoming more of a reality. And really the loss of life was mounting. And our circumstances looked very, very challenging. So we started this series at that time to turn to the Gita to see what words of wisdom it may offer. And now we're at the conclusion of these verses. And with your help tonight, you've given such a great summary. I'm very appreciative of how you've brought this to conclusion. Really, what I'm left with is again the application and how we're asked to apply the Gita to our daily life. Not everyone's going to be in such a dramatic battle scene as was our hero Arjuna, but we all have individual circumstances, or we can recognize things in our community, in our families, or even across the world which seem catastrophic. And it's in those moments when we sort of want to turn to these teachings again and listen to the advice of Sri Krishna. How are we to rise up and face those moments? So my question really, and you've already summarized this, but if you could think about how you've applied this in your own life, if any further examples come to you, so we might learn, kind of like almost a step by step. For me, one of the greatest steps is simply to acknowledge the feelings that are coming up. Just as Arjuna was in a place of sorrow, we may have a particular situation that similarly causes us to be in despondency, but not to stop there, to continue and grow and do the spiritual work of the Gita. My question is really, any more you can say about applying the Gita to our daily life?
I will start with, you see, forget about Bhagavad Gita. We want to be happy. Every minute, every hour, every day, we look for happiness in every aspect of our life, from food, from vision, with all our organs, with all our senses. We want to enjoy a picture. We want to go to a movie. We want to eat good food. We want to be happy, right? The minute we are not happy, we get upset. So dukkha and shuk, happiness and sorrow. Happiness is what? Lack of sorrow. So let's start thinking in every day, what making me unhappy? Why? What making me lose my sleep? Why I cannot go to bed and sleep? What making me unhappy? And then start looking the reason for it. And if we see that at that point, that all I'm seeing some Lego getting broken, it was very nice. With this pandemic, I lost two of my sisters. I lost a cousin brother. I lost one of my very close nephew. I spent travel all over India with that nephew, and he was only 42 years old. I lost with COVID. But I tell you, this book, Bhagavad Gita, helped me to realize that I didn't have control over all this. And I cannot blame myself. That doesn't mean I'll not be sorrowful. I'll not do something for somebody. I'll do all that. But again, this is just a toy. The toy got broken, it will be formed again. In another, my nephew and his daughter will grow up and she will be a great lady someday. And that's what I look after. So every time we feel lack of happiness, let's see where I'm unhappy. What making me unhappy? And then we can see Bhagavad Gita telling very clearly that we don't have no reason to be unhappy because it was never mine. The thing I thought last 40 years, 50 years, that's mine, is not mine. That was my wrong perception. That was my ignorance. Just like I talked about Swami Amarathananda. This was not his temple. He built it, fix it, walk out. And that's the attitude. And that's the attitude of a Shaktic person. That's the attitude of a Sannyasi. And more we can do that, less suffering we have. Do you think he loved this temple any less than what he did before? No. He still take his sleep that, what's happening in New Jersey. But again, he moved over. He went to new work, new activity, and he's building something new again because this was not his. He realized that. You see, a lot of things is not mine, but I accept it as mine. And then I get tied up with that. And that's what Bhagavad Gita talks about, that we have work, but no demand for fruits of action. Just you give the whole results to God. If it's his work, then I don't have any responsibility, good or bad. I did the best I could. And then it's over. I think that's the easy way to deal with it. Every time you become unhappy, see why I am unhappy. And the other thing is this Sattva Raja Tama thing, because we get, every time we are unhappy, there is some people associated with it. And this helps to realize why and when somebody dealing differently. And if we know that, we can neglect it. We can neglect it. We don't have to dwell on it. I can very easily, get out of that situation because it doesn't touch me. I'm not part of that fight. I'm not part of that raga desha, attachment. Is that any clear?
Yes, yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see.
Guruji, my deepest sympathy to you that you have lost close member of your family. And
yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
And I understand, but the beauty of that is you when you mention it, and as Brian has asked the question, how do you make use of the Bhagavad Gita in your day-to-day life? And in your situation, when you analyze it, and then you have your answer from the Bhagavad Gita,
True.
like this is how it is. This is the real story.
Right.
Yeah, you cannot get away from that.
Right.
And it's not for one person alone. If you look at every person's situation, especially Swami Amarnath says, Bhagavad Gita sometimes is not an interesting subject that you go and you study Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad Gita. He said, but at the end, it's like when you go to a rose bush and you wanted a rose, and you push your hands and you have pimples pricking you all over the hands and blood running out, but then you get you finally get the rose and you say, oh, look how beautiful it is, and admire it. That is Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And I like you have given this story of yours give a deeper summary of the ending chapters of the Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you. Any other question, Brian?
Brian, you're muted.
Yes. Any other, anyone else would like to express any gratitude as well to Asim for helping us with this series? Okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed it very much.
And I would like to thank you very much. We really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Yes. I think we would all like to thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. It was
And I liked your summary a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, my big challenge was the time frame. This thing is not something that we can ram through. It's, as I said, every word, every grammar is so important. And like, verse
number 2.
61, verse 61.
Leon's.
Go ahead.
Hello. Verse 61, if you go back to verse 61, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanang Ritu Desharjuna Tishtoti Brahmayano Sarva Bhutani Jamcharurani Maya. In verse 61, he's talking about Maya. This Maya is another aspect that we can spend hours. There is a beautiful story again I heard or read. One time, Swami Vivekananda was sitting in Belur Math, and there was few devotees, few of his fellow sannyasis sitting around, and they were talking all the Vedanta, very high philosophy. And at one point, Vivekananda said, ask me any question you want. I think it was Swami Brahmananda. And he says, Swamiji, I study a lot, but I want to know about Maya. What is your explanation about Maya, which is illusion? And Vivekananda's answer was, ask me another question. I mean, that was Vivekananda's answer. And then, of course, he answered that. But in verse 61, Bhagavan Sri Krishna talks about this. Ishwarang Sarva Bhutanang Riduddesh Arjuna Tishtati. And, I'm sorry that I didn't have time to expand on that. You see, the sentence Maya is explained in that. Let me go back to verse 61. It's a crime to go over with these verses so quickly. Arjuna, the Lord resides at the heart of all. See, this is very vital from the whole Sanatana Dharma point of view. With all the caste system, all the religious infighting, all the group fighting, that's take away all this. Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam. In every human being, God is there. Not only human being, the whole universe is his creation. Ridu Desh Arjuna Tishtoti. God is everybody. Brahmayano, don't be mistaken. Sarva Bhutani, Jantra Rurani Maya is enclosed by Maya. Arjuna, the Lord decided at the heart of all. By his deceptive power, the Lord makes everybody travel through many paths as if they are mounted on a machine. Jantra Rurani, we are just an instrument. And God is doing everything. And all is encompassing Maya. You see, that's where you can see in modern time, Bharat Srivastava Sangha to start with, as well as Ramakrishna Mission, their basic work is Seva. Why Seva? Because this whole creation is also God's. My neighbor is also God. So if that is true, why I'm not going to serve him? It is not best to just to serve the God as an idol or practice, is the human being. And that's why Bharat Srivastava Sangha does all this service. Ramakrishna Mission does all this service. Service is at the core of their basic principle. And that's all came from in modern day time. Nobody said that. Bhagavan Sri Krishna clearly said that no, Sannyasi and Tyagi, he explained Tyagi and Sannyasi, the difference. Arjuna wanted that. Arjuna wanted to give up the arms and forget about it and become a sannyasi. And Bhagavan Sri Krishna said, no, you have to do your work. Because this world, this universe is full of God's creation as well. And in verse 61 is clearly saying, Jantra Rurani Maya. So he's talking about Maya. And this verse you can expand in hours and talking about how we don't have to go to the Himalayas, go to the forest and do meditation. No, we can live here, serve humanity and serve God. Anybody else?
Brian?
Okay, I think Shuka has one more thing he'd like to share.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That subject and Maya. I remember one time I was with Swamiji's and some person had passed away. So one devotee asked Swamiji, why is it that people have so much sorrows and when somebody passed away, you have it is a very sorrowful thing. You cannot overcome the sorrow at that time. So I decided to raise my hand, and then Swamiji said, what you want to say, Suk? So I said, something I would like to answer you that question. I would like to answer that devotee on that subject. So I said, look, Swamiji is here now. There is no room for sorrow. But when Swamiji is not going to be here, then people will start to cry. They will say sad things. They will not able to control their emotion. You see, that is because when Swamiji is here, ignorance is not here. Pure knowledge is here. And when he is not here, ignorance overcome that knowledge, which is Maya. So when you were talking about that student which was asking what is Maya, and when Swamiji asks another question, I was thinking, what did the student if he understand or got the meaning of when Swamiji says ask another question?
Maya is a vast subject, lot of discussion. I mean, that's why you do Durga Puja. That's all is Mother Durga's encompassing all of us. That's his Maya in different form.
All right.
Anyhow, it's a nice discussion.
Yeah, thank you.
This has been really great. I've been really appreciative of everybody joining the journey here for as long as you have, if it's been for a year and a half or even shorter. But we've all learned a lot, and I'm grateful again, Asim, for your helping bring the series to a conclusion.
Thank you. Hope you enjoyed. I enjoyed very much. And thanks to Mr. and Mrs. Mukhopadhyay for your lovely comment. We really appreciate that.